Direct News TV. July 24, 2023. Russia-Ukraine updates. Moscow warns of retaliation after attacks. U.S. says it does not support attacks inside Russia. The United States White House said it did not support attacks inside Russia after being asked about 2 drones from Ukraine that damaged buildings in Moscow. As a general matter, we do not support attacks inside of Russia, White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters in a press briefing. Russia spoke of taking harsh retaliatory measures against Ukraine after the 2 drone attacks, including one close to the Defense Ministry's headquarters, in what it called a brazen act of terror. Lithuania urges EU to use Baltic ports to export Ukrainian grain. Lithuania has urged the European Union to use Baltic ports to export Ukrainian grain. A letter by 3 Lithuanian ministers to EU commissioners said Baltic ports could serve as a reliable alternative for transiting Ukrainian products, including cereals. The letter, seen by the Agence France-Presse news agency, said Baltic ports could help transport 25 million tons of grain annually. The letter also asked the EU to cut red tape on Ukraine's border with Poland, a member of the bloc. Russia says traffic temporarily blocked on Crimean Bridge. Road traffic on the bridge linking Russia to the Crimean Peninsula has been temporarily blocked, an official Telegram channel of Russian authorities said. No reason for the halting of traffic was stated. EU import ban extension on Ukraine grain unacceptable, Zelensky. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has branded as unacceptable any move by the EU to extend curbs on Ukrainian grain to protect local farmers who fear being undercut. Any extension of restrictions is absolutely unacceptable and frankly anti-European. Europe has the institutional capacity to react more rationally than to close its borders to a particular good, he said on social media. Zelensky said he hoped Europe will fulfill its obligations after the current restrictions on Ukrainian grain lapse on September 15. Child killed, 6 wounded in Russian raid in eastern Ukraine, Governor. A child has been killed and 6 people wounded in a Russian attack on the eastern Ukrainian city of Kostiantynivka, the Donetsk region's governor says. Russian forces fired Smerch rockets at a local pond where people were resting, Pavlo Kirilenko said on Telegram, adding that 3 children were among the injured. Traders Union UGA wants EU to increase capacity of grain solidarity lanes. The Ukrainian Grain Traders Union UGA says it has urged the European Union to increase the capacity of so-called solidarity lanes to help it export grain following the collapse of the Black Sea grain deal. The EU established the solidarity lanes last year after Russia's invasion to try to help Ukraine export grain and other agricultural products by providing alternative transit routes via rail, road, and inland waterways. Outlining its proposals on its website, the UGA said it wanted exports via the solidarity lanes to grow by 1 million to 1.5 million tons a month and suggested European carriers and ports involved in the transit of Ukrainian grain should receive partial compensation from the European Commission in the form of subsidies. This will lead to a significant reduction in the cost of grain transportation and will enable Ukrainian farmers to export surplus grain without losses to countries that need Ukrainian grain and stabilize global food security, the UGA said. UN chief calls on Russia to return to Black Sea grain export agreement. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called on Russia to return to the Black Sea grain export deal. For my part, I remain committed to facilitating the unimpeded access to global markets for food products and fertilizers from both Ukraine and the Russian Federation and to deliver the food security that every person deserves, Guterres said at the opening session of the 3-day UN Food Systems Summit +2 in Rome. I call on the Russian Federation to return to the implementation of the Black Sea Initiative in line with my latest proposal, he said. He stressed that Russia and Ukraine are both essential to global food security, and the most vulnerable people in the world will end up paying the highest price as a result of the grain deal's termination. Both countries accounted for roughly 30% of global wheat and barley exports, a fifth of all maize, and more than half of all sunflower oil, he noted. Ukraine detains senior ex-military official over suspected graft. A former senior Ukrainian military official has been detained for suspected corruption after reports his family bought real estate worth millions of dollars in Spain after the Russian invasion. Yevgen Borisov was in charge of mobilization and conscription in the southern region of Odessa until his dismissal in late June. Investigators in May accused Borisov of accepting bribes in return for exempting some people from being mobilized into the army. Ukraine's State Bureau of Investigation, SBI, which investigates high-level corruption, said Borisov had been detained in Kiev in a joint operation with the Prosecutor General's office. The former official attempted to flee by changing his phone numbers, car number plates and his location, investigators said. Borisov was charged with unlawful enrichment and the deliberate evasion of military duty, the SBI said. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Monitoring Group says thousands of Wagner mercenaries have arrived in Belarus. Thousands of Russia-linked Wagner Group mercenaries have arrived in Belarus since the force's short-lived rebellion, a military monitoring group said. Between 3,450 and 3,650 soldiers have traveled to a camp close to Asipoviki, a town 230 kilometers, 140 miles, north of the Ukrainian border, according to Belaruski Hajiun, an activist group that tracks troop movements within Belarus. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko welcomed Wagner forces into the country after brokering a deal between the Kremlin and mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin last month, ending the group's failed revolt against Russian military leaders. Satellite images show that about 700 vehicles and construction equipment have also arrived in Wagner convoys to Belarus, Belaruski Hajiun said. UNESCO mission to visit Odessa. A UNESCO mission is to visit Odessa in the coming days to assess the damage caused by Russian attacks in the Ukrainian port city and the region, according to Ukraine's Ministry of Culture. AFP journalist wounded near Bakhmut. Dylan Collins, a video journalist at Agence France Presse, AFP, has been wounded while on assignment in Ukraine. According to his colleague Stephanie Youssef, Collins sustained multiple shrapnel injuries in the attack in a forested area near Bakhmut. He was evacuated to a nearby hospital where he was being treated and doctors have said his condition was not life-threatening. Collins, 35, is conscious and speaking to colleagues, she said in a tweet, and added that investigations into the incident are ongoing. Zelensky says ban on Ukrainian grain exports beyond September 15 is unacceptable. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has held a meeting regarding the future of the export of Ukrainian agricultural products to Europe and the rest of the world. In May, the European Union allowed Bulgaria, Hungary, Poland, Romania and Slovakia to ban domestic sales of Ukrainian wheat, maize, rapeseed and sunflower seeds, while permitting transit of such cargo for export elsewhere. The ban is set to end on September 15. Our position is clear: blocking exports by land after September 15, when the relevant restrictions expire, is unacceptable in any form, Zelensky said in a tweet. Water at Dnipro hydroelectric plant drops to critical level, state-owned energy company. Ukraine's state-owned energy company has said that the water level at the Dnipro hydroelectric plant has dropped to a critical level, following the destruction of the Nova Kakhovka Dam last month. The average level of the lower bit near the Dnipro hydroelectric plant is 12.05 meters, 39 feet, above sea level. For the full operation of the Dnipro hydroelectric station, the water level must be at least 12 to 12.5 meters, 39 to 41 feet, the company said in a statement on Telegram. The company is now looking for appropriate project solutions so that the station can operate at full capacity. Ships anchor near Ukrainian ports after Russian attacks on grain storage units. Nearly 30 ships have anchored around Ukraine's Izmail port after Russia struck ports on the Danube River, according to marine traffic data. 3 more vessels also dropped anchor along the waterway leading to Reni Odessa. The reason behind their anchoring is unclear, but comes after Moscow's attacks on Ukrainian grain storage units. Lithuania's Landsbergis calls on NATO to double down on efforts. Lithuania's Foreign Minister Gabriel Landsbergis says that after the Vilnius NATO summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin feels emboldened to escalate. We must make sure our determination to help Ukraine to victory, and NATO membership, is better understood. Time to double down on our efforts, he said in a tweet. Putin ally accuses U.S. of planning cyber attacks on Russia. Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev has accused the United States of planning cyber attacks against Russia's critical information infrastructure, according to Russian state media reports. Patrushev said the U.S. Cyber Command, national security agency in NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence, based in Estonia, were planning and directing the attacks under the Ukrainian flag. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.